Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to be giving you an introduction to MVC and Entity Framework. These are the two powerful frameworks that can help you create robust and maintainable web applications. So what will be covered? So we're going to be covering MVC and Entity Framework, which is just a comprehensive guide to creating web applications with MVC and Entity Framework. So on the agenda, we're going to start off by introducing you all to MVC. What is Model View Controller? How does it interact with the web application? How do you build a web application with it? And then secondly, we're going to talk about Entity Framework. So I'm going to introduce you all to Entity Framework, why it works, why developers use it, why you should also use it, and why it's so important in the industry. And then I'm going to introduce you to migrations, which is basically a subset from Entity Framework. So it's a subtopic from Entity Framework, but migrations are responsible for the CRUD process, the CRUD, create, read, update, delete process. So if you know migrations, then you can successfully do that process seamlessly. And then the last thing you're going, not the last thing, the fourth thing is LinQ, which stands for Language Integrated Queries. So this is basically a way in which developers can be able to query information off a database without writing pure SQL queries. So instead of a pure SQL query, you will write a language integrated query. And then lastly but not least, I'm going to teach you OOP in Entity Framework and MVC. And when I say OOP in Entity Framework and MVC, I mean object-oriented programming, meaning that you're going to be building an object-oriented programming application in Entity Framework and MVC. And I know the smart ones of you might already be seeing this. Hey, aren't we already building an OOP, basically OOP powered application? And the answer to that is yes, you are. But I'm going to be making you more aware of what exactly are you doing and how can you improve on that. So why is all of this thing important? So these topics are important because they provide you with the foundation you need to create powerful and maintainable web apps. By understanding these topics, you'll be able to write code that is both database independent and scalable. So what you're going to learn by the end of the video, you would have a solid understanding of the following concepts: the MVC design pattern, the Entity Framework or RM framework, and the migrations. You have a solid understanding of LinQ, and you'll have a solid understanding of OOP concepts in Entity Framework. So how should you use this information? This information should be used in various of web applications. For example, you can use it to code a simple to-do list application, or a blog, or even a social media platform. So I'm going to introduce you to MVC, and first we're going to start off about what is MVC. All right, MVC. What is MVC? So, according to my own slides here, it says that MVC is a software design pattern that separates an application into three main logical components: the model, view, and the controller. The model represents the data of the application, and the view is responsible for displaying the data to the user, and then the controller is responsible for handling user input. Alright, so these three things work interchangeably and they work together in order to build very scalable and robust web applications. Alright then, so MVC is a very popular design pattern for web applications because it does make your code easier to read and maintain, and it also makes the code more testable and scalable. Alright then, so now I'm gonna talk about why should anybody use MVC. What's the overall purpose of all this thing? So MVC helps you to keep your code organized and easy to understand, and MVC makes your code more testable, and MVC makes your code more scalable, and basically that's the three main components of it. We're gonna move on now to the next slide, and we're gonna be talking about our MVC application. This is the best part I've been waiting for myself. We're gonna build an MVC application. So I'm gonna show you all a scenario-based question here, and we're basically gonna discuss it. And then from there, we're gonna go to Visual Studio and do the actual coding now. Okay, let's get started. Alright then, so let's get started. We're gonna first read the scenario-based question. So what does it say? You're developing a student management system using ASP.NET's MVC5. The system allows you to view a list of existing students. However, your client wants to enable administrators to add new students to the system through a user-friendly interface. So you're basically a developer in a company that has students, so hopefully a university, and you're wanting to make a system to view the list of existing students. So you want to make a system that's going to enable you to view the students that were entered in the system and basically be able to edit, delete, and update that data. So the task is design a new view and action in the student controller to handle the process of adding a new student. When a user submits the form with the student details, student ID, name, and age, the data should be stored in the students list and the user should be redirected back to the updated list of students. So the question, you're building an MVC, you're building a student management system using ASP.NET 5 MVC. How would you allow administrators to add new students to the system? Describe the steps you would take to design a new view and action in the student controller to handle the process of adding a new student. What happens when the user submits the form with the student details? So I have divided this thing up to 3 things. First, you have the scenario-based question. This is how they can ask you if maybe you're in an exam type of thing. They can ask you a scenario like that, give you the first one I have here, scenario-based question, or they can give you a task in terms of you just have to design a new view and a student controller, meaning that you're not going to be doing like most of the model coding and all that stuff, but you would still need to know what exactly happens in the model. All right, so then the last one is a question that is more theory based. Of course, I'm going to answer them all. These two though are just going to be answered by just me building the application, and then this one I'm going to give you a comprehensive guide on me answering them. I will link it down in the description below in the video, the guide of me explaining this thing, why I was doing this, the steps I took, and all that. Alright, then without wasting any more time, let's go to Visual Studio and we're gonna start building this application. Oh no, wait, I'm first gonna show you the application I have built for this activity, and then we're gonna rebuild it again with you guys watching me and seeing me build it. Okay, let's go. Alright, so we're officially in Visual Studio right now, and this is the application you have in front of you. So you have your public class student. So public int student ID gets set. You have your required, this is your validations. You have your public string name, your required again validations, the range of the name, and you have your public int age. So there's usually no limit to someone's age. Anybody over 200 though. So this is where you would put your method if you have any. At the moment, I'm not gonna put in any methods, but I will put it on later on in the video. So if you want to see me put methods into a link queue or a entity framework class, then you can skip to the next part of the video. I'll probably have it described in the description below. Alright then, so this is the model. So when you start building such things, you're just gonna first build the model. And then from there, after you've built the models or all the necessary models you need, in this case, I only have one model. You're gonna also build a student DB context. So a student DB context is just basically, it's where you're putting all your databases. So I'm gonna need you to be a bit with me here. There's something called SQL. SQL is basically a language that is specifically structured and tailored to just accommodate any application into a database. Okay, so in terms of students, and if you're using SQL, you would code all the necessary things here using SQL formats. I'll probably have a photo linked up here, but you will code all of this using SQL formats. This is the way you create a table. So in C# you reference this as a class, but in SQL you reference this as a table. Okay, so this is a table. In SQL you just have 3 things here, but here we have all these required things because of the data annotations and keeping up with the standard and all that. So that's just it. So this guy here, what you just put is public class student DB context, and then you put the inheritance sign here, and then you put DB context. So DB context is a whole bunch of things of its own. It's a whole other mystery of its own itself. So I'm not gonna go into that today. I'm just gonna go on here. So here you have your public virtual DP set students. So what are you doing here exactly? So what is happening here, you just made student, which is the name of your previous model or the name of your table. You put it here, and then you made an object. The object is what? Is the students. So this students represents the student here. It's basically like a clone. Think of it like you just created a clone of yourself, and that clone has all the qualities and characteristics you have. So that's basically it. And then from there, you're gonna do the entity framework steps. You're gonna see them as like live code the application in front of you, and then after you've done that, it will successfully generate all of this code you see right before you. All this controller code, I did not write it myself. No, it was given to me by me properly telling the computer what to do, because that is exactly what you're doing as a developer. You're telling the computer, hey, do this, like this, like this, like this. In a sense, it is like machine learning. So you're teaching a machine to do something. You're teaching this machine to use the model you made it and use the DB context class you made it to make this controller for you. And look, this controller has an index, it has details, it has create. This is usually the thing they're gonna ask you to make if you're like a second semester student in DUT studying application development. You'll most likely be asked to make this part of the controller, the create part, but you might also be asked to create the edit part as well. But create is the most important part, because without you being able to create or put something in your database, you won't really be able to use it effectively. All right then. So this is the important part in the controller. Remember, the computer generated all of this for me, right? Okay. And then what else did it make for me? It made me a view. This view, forget all these red things. There's no errors in my code. This thing is just dumb. So there's all of these things. You have your edits here. You have your details. So this is the view for the details. So for whatever thing you have, you must have a view for it, for everything to work fluently and everything to work smoothly. So I'm just gonna go to my root config, see if the controller I put is the correct one, students controller, and then I'm gonna run it so you all can see the application at work. And then from there, we're gonna go and build an MVC version of this application where the compiler will not be coding this thing for me. The compiler will not be doing all the hard work for me, but I'm going to build this entire thing without a database first, because the one I'm making for you right now, or the one I'm showing you right now, has a database which has entity framework inputted into it. But before you can get to that level, you must first understand this thing at an architectural level, where you see the type of model you have to design, you see the type of controller you have to design, and you see the type of view you have to make. Okay, so when you're hard coding this thing, you're not gonna code everything like the computer. No, we're humans, we can only code so much, but you're gonna see exactly what the computer is doing in the background. And I'm hoping that is going to shed some light to you. I'm hoping that is going to make you more aware whenever you're starting to use the code first approach. You're going to be more aware of what is exactly happening in the background, what exactly is the compiler doing, and how exactly can I use that, or where can I change it to make it fit my own needs and make it fit what I want it to do. Okay, so I'm going to be waiting for this thing to load up. I'm probably just going to skip it up a bit. Okay, yeah, now it's up. So you have your index here, right? So your index, you have name, age. Okay, two things. Let's say create new. So right now we're gonna create an application. Let's say my name is fine, we'll use my real name. It's gonna be like 5 years old. So we click create. So you see this thing just added my name and my age here, right? Let's click new again. Excuse me. Let's say you're gonna probably add no client. Oh, sorry. No client. So on. Probably they're like 20 years old. Okay. Create again. Hey, this thing keeps going, right? So let's probably add like Ryan gigs, probably age 30. Then we create again. So that's like 3 things now. Oh, but hey, I made a mistake here with domain. So it's not actually 5 years old. It's actually 18. So how do we change that? So let's just hit the edit button. So now you can edit whatever information you had. You save it up. Comes back here as 18 now. Oh, let me try to read the information for Notanta Zwane. Oh, Notanta's name is Notanta Zwane. Her age is 20. So yeah, let's go back to the list. I want to remove someone here. Ryan Cakes is not from this country. He's not from South Africa. This English guy now. Let me delete them. So it's going to be deleted. And then you don't see him in the database anymore. So this is more like a database. So an administrator or an admin would have an interaction to something similar like this. So we have a bunch of these action links working simultaneously between all 5 of your web pages. Of course, I did not edit any of this. There was no need, since I was going to create all these hyperlinks over here. So this is how it looks. This is how the application looks, and stick around because right now I'm about to show you a dumbed down version of this first. We're going to build a dumbed down version of this application, and then from there we're going to go build this exact application. So this is more like a teaser for you guys. If you want to stick around, let's get going. We're going to start building an MVC model of this without us including the database. Okay, I want to strictly say this out because in this section I'm not going to be including the database, but I will be using something very similar to a database. It's called list. It's a list data type function. I'm first going to explain it before I get to it, but okay. Right now, let's start building it. We're gonna go back to Visual Studio, and I'm gonna go back to the start of it and show you guys exactly where you start, the steps you take, and all that. Okay. So yeah, anything you're gonna see here, you're bound to be doing it in another platform as well. So okay, let's say I do not have this here. It's like first time I'm doing it. It's gonna come in. I'm gonna click ASP.NET. Search for it here. Which .NET are we looking for? We're looking for the .NET with C#, Windows, Cloud, and Web. So it must have C# here. So we're gonna click here, and then it's gonna take you to this page where you're gonna name your project. I'm going to decide to name my project Student Management Database. Alright, so as you can see, I have named my project Student Management Database, and there are no spaces here whatsoever. Okay, so spaces is something that you must not have, and here you can change where to put your project. I'm gonna put mine in my desktop, and then I'm gonna click create. It's gonna create your project, and then you're gonna be here. You're gonna choose MVC. Then you're gonna click create again. And then it's going to create your project, and you're going to be on the front of the MVC page. So then, how do you want to actually do it? So the first step would be you to first right click on the model folder, go to the add function here, you go right down here to the class, you click this. It pops up this user interface, and then you're gonna write here student. So student is the name of our database, or the name of our class, or our excuse me, or our table. So student is the name of the table. Click add here, and then you're automatically here. Just gonna zoom in so you guys can see. Yeah, it doesn't get better than this. Actually it does, but I won't be able to see, so yeah. So what are we first gonna put here? Like, what's the first essential thing? So yeah, we are finally here. We are finally about to start building our model. What exactly do we need? So in this class, I'm just gonna put in 3 properties, which is going to be the student ID. So you're first just gonna say public, and then from there you're gonna say int. You're gonna say student ID, right? And then it's going to be your get and your set properties. All right, so we have these, and then what else do we have? We have the student name, so we must input the student name as well. So I'm just gonna simply put it like this: public string, just gonna be student. Okay, there's something called naming conventions. I am currently not following them. Maybe small letter s, small letter s as well. Okay, then from here you're just gonna have your get and your sets. Then you're gonna say public int. Now we're gonna be adding the student's age, your get again, and your sets. And now look, I'm not saying these are the only properties you can hook up here, because there are other properties you can add as well. I'm just not gonna go deep into them, because the point is I want to make here property. The point I want to make here is not really so much on the model, it's more on the entire MVC architecture, on like how does everything work together, how is everything integrating together, and how it's going to help you guys to know how all these different aspects work together, because these properties are defined in the student class and you're able to store information about students, including their identifiers, their names, and their ages. So this is a basic structure that can be extended based on your application's requirements. So this is more like a template for you guys. If you have specific questions to ask or would like to perform this on the student class, please let me know and I'll be glad to assist you further in terms of explaining what exactly is happening. You can just leave a comment down below and I'll promise to get back to you, and I really promise. So now we're gonna go build our controller. So we're gonna right click on controller, we're gonna add controller, we're gonna pick the MVC5 empty controller, and then we're gonna click add. Okay, and then from there we're gonna name our controller. The name we're gonna be using is going to be student controller. So it's gonna scaffold, it's gonna be making my controller for me, not everything, just the whole basic part of it, and then we're gonna actually get to the hard coding part of it. Alright, so we're finally here and we can finally start. So I'm just gonna remove all this because I don't really need it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how you can add student data to your existing class or your existing table. So what you're just gonna do is just type in new student, type in new student, not student controller, just student. Oh god. Yeah, finally, just student, which is supposedly the name of the class. And then I'm gonna open. Alright then, so we have made our controller, and now what we have to do is basically create a list. So this list is gonna store all the information about the student. It's gonna say private. The list has to be private because I don't want anybody just looking at my list and any property just taking anything from my list. Okay, let me just made a mistake here. It's gonna be static, and then we're gonna have list. So list is just a data type provided by C#, nothing too special. We have student here. Student is the name of your class. And then I'm gonna make an object called students. It's the name of my object. And then I'm gonna say it's equated or equals to new list student. Alright, so I don't actually have to do this ones. So what do I have to do from here? I have to start inputting. So what I just did, I made a list. A list is a form of a database in a sense, but it's not really a database. It's just a place where you can store your information, and you can use that information later on in your code if you want to, or you can view that information when you launch your application. You're gonna see it here. So in SQL, you normally write an insert function here, but in C#, this is where the magic comes in. You ain't gonna be writing no insert, no nothing. So you're just gonna be writing this is how you're adding information to your list, similar to how you would add it in a database in SQL. So student name, let's say maybe the nigga's name is John. It's John Delph. I don't know, some English name or something. Put a comma here. And then after this, what else we're gonna have? We're gonna have age. Maybe he's about 29 years old. Such a very old student, veteran in the field. And then you put a comma here. Put space again. I'm gonna say new. Okay, I'm actually gonna go a bit quicker now. New student. About the same information as we've been providing below, or we've been providing above actually. So make sure the student ID does not match, so that you can be able to differentiate exactly which ones are your students and which one are not. Equals to, okay, made a mistake. Maybe this one's name is Sokolo Nosif. Wow. Nosif. And then we're just gonna be having this. Gonna put in another comma here. Oh, it's actually just giving me an error here. I didn't put in the comma. It's good now. Then what else you have left? You have age. So this gen can be like 18, or this lady actually. Put in another comma here. I have an issue here. I use caps lock. Let me just copy this, paste it here. Alright then, so I think we have about everything we need. So I just added a few students here. Of course, you can add more students by just continuing with the format I've given you here. The list can be almost endless. I'm not too sure about the endless part. So you can add more student data here. So in a sense, the student list initialization, the student list is a static list that holds instances of student classes. So the student list holds an instance of the student class. This list simulates a basic memory data storage for your students. So as I said before, it's more like a database, but a lower version of a database, as it just simulates a basic in-memory data storage for the students. Okay, so I'm gonna move on, and we're gonna now start creating like the index. Basically what the user is going to be interacting with, not the user interacting with, what information the controller is going to be passing on from the model to the view. All right, so I'm just gonna name this so you all can follow up on me. So this is an action to display the list of students. Okay, so you see the list we just made above. We're now going to make an action to actually display this list. list of students. List of students. All right then, so how does this one start? Just gonna say public. You say public and then you're gonna you say action results. Yes, it's action results, and then you're gonna name it index. Make sure you put the brackets here, and then from there you're just gonna say this little guy here, say return view. Okay, and then what you're gonna do, you're gonna put in your object you made here, which is students, put comma here, and bam, that's it. So you can basically view the students here. So that's all cool and all that. So I'm gonna make another action. So remember, this action is just to display the list of students. Let's make another comment again. So it's gonna be action to handle the form submission and add a new student. All right, so okay, we're first gonna have something that not necessarily looks bad, but it's something. It's gonna be your usual action results. So I'm gonna say public action results. Let's say add student. So this is the name of our action results. And then after here, what are we gonna do? I'm gonna say return. What are we returning here? We're returning a view. We don't really have to specify anything here because we haven't even gotten to like the best part. All right, so oh, actually I made a bit of an error here. Got a bit carried away. The action here is gonna end up here. So this is an action to display the form to add students. Okay, so it's an action to display the form to add students, and now we're about to make an action to handle the form submission. All right, what do we need first? First we have to put our little trusty guy here, HTTP post, never forget him. And then we're gonna say public action results. Oh, so it's public action results. So I'm gonna simply say here so now we're going to be calling our class. Now we're linking this action results to our model. Don't get carried away with that. Just linking this thing to our model, and then we're going to make like something to represent it here. Excuse me. It's going to be called students, and then we're going to open the brackets here, the curly braces, the infamous ones, and then I'm going to say if. So this is the nice part. If model states, so I'm gonna say if model states dot is valid. So It's more like a built-in C# feature. You just have to know when to put it in. You usually put it in whenever you're making action results to handle a form submission or anything that's going to require you to first adhere to whatever the application rules that were set by the developer. In this case, the rules we set is that we have a student ID, a student name, and an age. Alright, basically what is here on your class. Okay, let's go back to the controller. So we're first gonna generate a new student ID in a real application. You would use a database to handle this normally, but I'm going to show you a cool way to do it, so you actually know what the database is doing whenever it's time we get into Entity Framework, and we're going to be automatically generating all of this. So it generates a new student, generates a new student ID, open brackets, in a real application. I'm making all these comments so you all can see exactly what I'm doing, because I don't want anybody to be lost during the whole process of this, because it's a very long video and you really need every aspect of this video. Also, you just knowing all the cool tricks I'm about to show you is gonna make you a lot better than most people in coding. So keep your eyes peeled, and yeah, hope you enjoyed the show. Database. I'm not database to handle this, so just giving you all this information so you all know. I'll probably link everything down in the description. I'll try to make a document for you all so you can all see and try the code out for yourself. Alright, bet. So what are we making now? First gonna say int. It's going to be new student ID is equated to students. So students, this is the object, don't forget that. We're gonna put count. Count is basically a C# keyword that you're already given. It's nothing special, so it just counts from whatever command you give it from here. It starts counting from there, so it's gonna increment by 1 every single time, or it's gonna plus by 1, and then we're gonna say new new student. You know what, I'm just gonna copy this, yeah, put it like this, dots, student ID equated to let me just, yeah, dot student ID. What's up? No, it's gonna work. I'm gonna say new student ID, and yeah, I'm gonna put these semicolons in. I think it should work. New student dot student ID. Okay, so this is basically how one would go about adding such a thing. So we have new student dot student ID equal to new student ID. So what exactly are we doing here? So the add student action results. This action displays a form that allows the user to add new students and returns the view named addStudent.cshtml. And then the add student action HTTP post public actions add students student new student. This action handles the form submission when a new student is added. It accepts a parameter new student of type student, which is automatically populated with the form data submitted by the user. It checks whether the model state is valid, whether the submitted data meets the validation rules defined in the model. So that's the whole instance of the model state is valid, and then generates a new view. So if the model state is not valid, it returns the add student view with the provided new student data so that the validation errors can be displayed. So this is basically what we're doing. I just explained it in real, like, how can I put this in real big terms. Oh, this error ain't going away. So the new student does not exist in the current context. Huh, how so though? Oh, actually, okay, yeah, here's a little mess I made here. So I made a bit of an error here, but it's nothing too hasty. It's just fixing this. You have a new student now. So this is good. This is good. I have to deal with this. I'm gonna like rebuild this thing. Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna rebuild and then it's gonna show me exactly where does it have errors. One failed, okay. So what I don't quite understand is this is the parameter new object, but this is the field for that thing. So this just has to be student ID. Alright then, so this is how it looks like. So I'm just going to explain what happened here. We have your int here, which is just your data type. We have your new student ID, which is the local variable we're making, which is an int, and we're assigning its value to students. Students is in a list. This list here above it we made students. This is it. It's a read-only thingy. And then count +1, and then new student. New student is this guy here. So we're putting him here, and then dots so we can access the student ID from this table. Here it is. And then equate it to new student ID. So this thing is now equal to the student ID here. So whenever it makes a count, it's also increasing here. So if we're gonna have student number 1, we're gonna have student ID 1, student ID 2, student ID 3, student ID 4, student ID 5. So, and it goes on almost like that. So we have generated a new student ID in a root application, and now we have to add the new student to the list. Okay, so I'm gonna say add new student to list. What's gonna happen here? So, excuse me, I'm gonna say students. Remember now, students is the name of my list. Here's the list above here. This guy here, this is students, okay? And then what we're doing, I'm gonna say dots. I'm gonna say add. So add, I think, is another keyword by C# that you can use. So I'm gonna say add, and then you're gonna open your bracket here and gonna say new student. Put your comma here, and you have added a new student to the list. What else you're gonna have here? You're gonna redirect back to the updated list. Back to the updated list. So alright, so we're redirecting back to the list we made. How are we gonna do this? We're gonna just say return, and then there's a special function we're gonna have here. It says redirect and typing this thing out is just not fun. Redirect to action. Redirect action, and then you're gonna open your brackets here, put this guy here. I'm gonna say index. So index is gonna be the name of my view. You're gonna see me as I create the view later on in the video. So after that, what else are we gonna have? So I think this kind of like ends this little class here we're doing. And then now, if the model state is not valid, you're obviously gonna need something to get it out, which is why we're just gonna do it like this. So I'm just gonna say if the model state or is not valid, run this. Okay, it's gonna say return view, and yeah, we have built our controller, or our action results, our add student action results, and we have our index here, and we also have our private list here that we can use. So notice one thing though, it's important for you to include comments whenever you're coding, because it even helps you to understand exactly what is happening in your code, so that you just don't be coding and you don't even know where is north and where is south. Alright then, so we have built this action results. Just gonna explain it a bit. So if the model state is valid, if basically all the information required is inputted, then the model state will be valid, and then it's gonna start generating a new student ID for the student, and then after that it's gonna generate so it's gonna enable you to add a student to the list, and it's gonna redirect you back to the updated list of students. Okay, that's about it actually. So we have made our model. This is the index I'm talking about. When I'm saying redirect to index, this is the index you're being redirected to. Okay, so we have built our controller, and so that's basically it. So we're gonna go now and build our view. So the view is a very not so complex if you know razor syntax in HTML, but if you don't, it is gonna be a bit tricky. But don't worry, you have me here. I'm gonna go now make our view, so take along. Alright then, so how does one get started making the view? So we're gonna go here to your views folder, something called student. You're gonna right click here, you're gonna click add, and then you're gonna click add view. MVC5 view, you're gonna add it, and then now you must give your view a name. Now then look, the name you're gonna give your view, you must be very wary of this name, because whatever name you're giving it, it's obviously gonna link to the controller that you made before. So yeah, be wary whenever you're naming this thing, okay? I'm gonna give this the unique name of index. I'm gonna click add. So it's gonna scaffold, and then from there it's gonna give me this. Not gonna change much. Alright, what I am gonna do though is I'm gonna add something here. I have to link basically the list I made to this view. So I'm gonna say add model list, add model list. I'm gonna have student DB. Not student DB in this sense, but I'm gonna have student. Oh, the namespace is very long. Oh, thank you, the autofill for me. I'm gonna have student database management system database. Oh, student management database, and then I'm say dot. You must input models, and then you must say dot student, and that's almost about it. Okay, I should also add something here. Forgot, this is a list we're talking about. Yeah, and everything should be good. Alright, I'm hoping it's gonna pan out good, but if it persists and giving me errors, I'm gonna fix it. But I don't think they're gonna be any errors on this one. Yeah, it's gonna come along nicely. So what am I first gonna put here? I'm gonna put this guy here. So I'm gonna be using more HTML based text here rather than your standard razor syntax where you just be lazy coding all this thing. And I got a whole lot of work than usual. So it's gonna be doc type. It's gonna be doc type. Type, okay. Actually forgot something here. HTML. Small letters would be good. HTML. And then from there, just gonna say HTML. Put this here, and I'm gonna say head, so I'm gonna have my head here. Title, right, then you have your head, your title. What else are we gonna put in here? Let's have a body as well. Yo, this is a lot of things to consider. So you see, this is why people should learn Entity Framework. With Entity Framework, you're not doing all this hard coding task. You're just coding like the regular stuff. Gonna have your heading 1 here, H1, compose. Gonna have here student list. So after having your student list, what else are you gonna have? I'm gonna make something like a table so that it can like store everything up in a good way. Not so sure how good this table is gonna be though. Alright, I'm gonna have table, and then inside table I'm gonna have CR. Oh god. Gonna have TR. Then inside TR I will have student ID. Alright, so if I even have that as well too. TH. I'm just gonna take this. Yeah, put it like this. I'm gonna duplicate all this. Gonna have name. Then I'm gonna have H. Okay. So I have student ID, your student name, and your student name. What else do we have to offer here? What I don't understand is that I'll probably fix this up later. So we have your age, and then we have closing our table. And then now we're gonna start using some pretty deep shit. So you should pay attention, because this is actually what you're usually getting tested on. I'm gonna say at for each. It's more like a for loop, but not really. For each, you open brackets here, you're gonna put in var, which is your keyword, and then student, in model, open this guy here. So this is razor syntax now. So we're gonna have tr again here. And then now we're gonna have td. So these are all HTML tags. If you don't know them, you're in trouble. You're really in trouble. Not to say know them by heart, but know some of them. So we're gonna have student dots student ID. So obviously I'm not gonna be writing the same thing over and over again. Here it's gonna be name, find student name, and then here you're gonna have your age. Alright, so these are the things we currently have, and how do they help us exactly? So right now we're referring to the local variable in student, the copy we made actually. Come back here. So this is the thing we're referring to, the list. Okay, what else do we need? Index should be out here. Okay, anything in here? I think we're good on the table. So what I should make now is a link. Hit HTML dot action link. So this is how I'm making a hyperlink to whatever page I want this thing to go to. I want it to go to add students. Remember, we created add student in the controller. We just haven't made the view for it yet, so it might not basically work. So right now it's going to give us an error at the moment, but it's going to be fixed as we go on with all this. So add student, this is the name that's going to appear to like the user, and then this is going to be the name of the hyperlink. Add student. Alright, so we have added this little hyperlink here. Nothing too extravagant. Alright, so I think we're done with like the first page. So this is basically this view is a view for the first page. Alright, and before we move on to the second view, there's something I want to make sure that you all understand. So what exactly is happening in this for each? What is happening here? So the for each loop iterates through each student in the model. So every single student you're going to add to this thing, this little guy here is going to iterate through it. When I say iterate, it just means it's going to run through it. So it's going to scan and see what is the student ID there, is the student name there, is the student age there as well. So it's just going to be scanning through the whole table. So inside the loop, Razor syntax is used to access the properties of each student. Add student.student ID. So this is Razor syntax as well. Anything with an adds is Razor syntax. So we're using this Razor syntax to access the model here, the model we linked above, and then get its properties and be able to look through it. So, and you use the Razor syntax to access the properties and display them within the table rows. And then below you just see the action link method that generates the link to navigate to the add student action when clicked. This link allows users to add new students, and basically that's about it. So in summary, this view takes the list of students provided by the student controller index action and dynamically generates an HTML table to display the student's information. The Razor syntax is used seamlessly to blend the C# code with the HTML to generate the desired content view. So right now I'm about to go create my last view. The view now is going to be used to input the names of the students. Alright, then so I'm just gonna simply go here, students folder again, you right click, then you go to the view, you click this little guy here, you say add, and now you're gonna name your view. So what are we gonna name our little view here? We're gonna name it add student, of course, since we're adding students. I'm gonna say add student, and then I'm gonna click add. Alright then, so we're at the front page for this thing. I'm gonna simply put something here, some Razor code, so I can link my model. So it's going to be add model student management database, wada all that dumb stuff. Student, yeah, there it is. Student management database. I'm gonna say dots models dot student. It's a coma now. Dot student. Yes, and that's about it. It's not giving me any errors here, so I still have this error. Still do. Let me see. Let's model. List. Say add model. Oh god. Model list student database management, and then from there what am I gonna have is what it's add model student. I'm gonna say dot models dot student, then you close off the tag here. That's about it. Now there's no errors in it. I don't know why it was giving me errors before. I truthfully do not know, but now it's good though. Alright then, so let's get back to this other view here, the add student. What else do we need? Okay, I'm not gonna recode all this dumb shit. Just gonna copy all of this. and then I'm gonna put it here. Yeah, relax, we'll fix all that later. Then you're gonna have your H1. You're gonna input add students. Oh god, why does this thing not even doing it for me? Because that's the point of a compiler if it doesn't code for you. Okay, and then now I'm gonna say at using HTML begin form. Hey, look, so this is a lazy way of coding because I don't like to be putting all those different values they'll be making us do there. It's really time consuming and it's literally for no reason to. So I'm gonna have a div here as usual. So I'm gonna have a div and then I'm gonna say add HTML dot label for open these little brackets here and say model equates it to this thing. Model again, you dot this, then you're just gonna say student name. Yeah, so that's the label for. Right after that, oh yeah, I need to close off things nicely as well here. Oh, not really, it's still under the same div, so yeah, no worries. I'm gonna say add again, HTML dot, now it's going to be text box form. Gonna say model. Yeah, I think small letter model might just do. I have model again, dot, student name. Yeah, so it's just basic razor syntax. Then add HTML dot validation message for model. Okay, let me just, it has to be in small letters, model, and then same story as above, this little guys there. Can I have model as well? Dot student name. So here I'm adding a validation for this thing. If someone's not gonna be entering their name and they're gonna be entering their own bullshit, they ain't gonna be able to be doing that on this application. So yeah, that's just the whole basis of this thing. So how do I close this guy? /. Great, open this thing. Then doing language. Div. I must have by that. That's all. You're gonna come out. Yes, and see what it is. That's all. I made an error here actually. Begin form. Yeah, let's push. What else is required of me here? So I must do the exact same thing I just did here, but just for age. So yeah, I'm just gonna like copy this little guy here, put him in there, H is it? Copy him. And I'm gonna go putting him around the code. So I'm like all the way over. So yeah, this is how simple code can get. Because I just copied and pasted this thing, and I got two things with the exact same thing, but doing two different things. So what do I need now? I need to make a button. I don't have a button yet. So yeah, I should probably make a button. Alright, so I'm gonna say inputs. I'm gonna say type created to submit. Yeah, now we're cooking. Value. It's gonna be add student. Alright then, so we have successfully opened our application. So this is the web app running right now on whatever browser you're gonna be using. I'm using Microsoft Edge. So as you can see, it's more like in a table format. I wasn't actually able to get it to the right consistency I wanted it to be at, but this is a student list. So you have a student list here, and if you click this link here, it's gonna take you to add students, and then you can add the name of your student. Here, like mine is like Pingu, and then I'm like 30 years old, and it's gonna be add student, and he's successfully added here. Want to add another guy? Pure. I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. 30 again. Basically, that's it. So you see, this is an MVC application that you're able to create, and you're able to read, and you're able to basically add those two main functions, create and read. There are two things missing here, which is the update and delete. So this is where Entity Frameworks comes in. So as you just seen over like the last few minutes of the video, I was hard coding this entire application, and this is what I got. I'm able to make the student ID count, I'm able to enter my name, I'm able to enter my age. But there's a limit to this thing. I cannot edit the information once entered, I cannot change it, I cannot delete the information or incorrect information I've added, and that's why Entity Framework is important. In Entity Framework, you're going to learn how to make an application that's going to be able to use the CRUD process properly, meaning that you're going to be able to create, to read your data, to update your data, and to delete your data. So that's the next part of the video. We're going to be moving on to Entity Framework. I'm first going to explain it all just gently to you all, and then from there we're going to move on and make an Entity Framework powered application, and then we're going to move on to migrations, link queues, and OOP in MVC. So this is the first part of the video over, and we're gonna move on now to the second part. Alright then, Entity Framework. So what is Entity Framework? Entity Framework is a popular ORM framework, which stands for Object Relational Mapping framework, that allows you to interact with a database using objects. So as you know, objects are basically used interchangeably in C#, and we often create objects to host our classes. In this case, we're going to create objects to host our tables. And then object relational frameworks provide a layer of abstraction between the database and the application, which makes it easier to write code that is both database independent and maintainable. So as I'm going to elaborate on it again, object relational mapping is the process of mapping objects to database tables and columns. For example, you could have an object called user that is mapped to a database table called users. The user object would have properties that correspond to the columns in the users table. And then you're going to have something called, so there are two approaches to building Entity Framework powered applications. The first one is a very old model called the database first approach, and then the second one is the newer model, the modern way of doing it, and it's called code first development. This methodology is for developing applications that use object relational framework in order to code first development, you start by creating an entity framework model. So for you to do code first, you should create an entity framework model, and then the model is a representation of your database schema in code. You can then use the model to create entities, which are objects that represent data in your database. So as you go along with entity framework, you're gonna be subjected to terms like migration. Migration is a feature of entity framework that allows you to track changes to your database schema. When you make changes to your database schema, you can use migrations to generate a script that will update your database. This makes it easy to manage your database schema and roll back changes if necessary. And then you're going to be exposed to something called LinQ queries. This is a powerful query language that can be used to query data in a variety of data sources, including databases. LinQ can be used within Entity Framework or with Entity Framework to query your database for data. So CRUD operations are another thing. These are the 4 basic operations that you can perform on data in a database: create, read, update, and delete. You can use Entity Framework to perform CRUD operations on your database. So I did talk about CRUD operations before as I was making the MVC video, and now I'm about to talk about them more here, but we'll get to that later. Why should you even use Entity Framework? Like, as a person, why should anybody use Entity Framework? Like, okay, we get it, Entity Framework is a big ass language that everybody uses, but why exactly should I use it? Is it important? Is it really that valuable? So Entity Framework model is a representation of your database schema and code, as I just said. Let's get to the why part. So there are a number of reasons why you might want to use an Entity Framework. First, it makes it easier to write your database independent code. This means that your code will be easier to maintain and update, as you won't need to worry about making changes to your code if your database schema changes. Secondly, Entity Framework provides a number of features that can help you to write more effective and reusable code. For example, Entity Framework can automatically generate queries for you, and it can also help you to manage your database schema. How to use Entity Framework? Well, there are 2 ways to use it, as I mentioned before. You're either gonna go with a modern code first development approach, or you're gonna go with the old database first approach. So in the code first development, you start by creating an entity model. As I explained, the model is a representation of your database schema in code, and you can use the model to retrieve entities, which are objects that represent the data in your database. So examples of using Entity Framework in code. Here's an example of how you can use Entity Framework in code. You can use Entity Framework to create, read, update, and delete data from your database. You can use the Entity Framework to query your database from data, to query your database for data, and you can use the Entity Framework to automatically generate database schema changes. And code first development versus database first development, you get to compare those 2 features. Okay, so the main difference between these 2 is that code first development basically code first development creates your model first, and then you use the Entity Framework to generate your database schema. In database first development though, you create your database schema first, and then you use Entity Framework to generate your model. So you see, it kind of goes all the way around. So whenever you're going to be working with entities can be used to perform CRUD operations on your database. So these are the things you use to perform such CRUD operations, and you can also use entities to query your database for data, as I just said. So this is an illustration of a simple database table. I hope you can see it. You have your login, your search page, your add project, your project completes, your contact page. So these are all the actions you have. You can create. Can you create login? No. But you can read a user, you can update a user. Can you delete it? No. Search page. Can you search page? Yes, you can search for projects and read it and project type only. And then add a project. You can create something. You have project type. You have user audit. See, you have mark project complete. You cannot create a mock project complete, but you read it, you update it. See, contact pages. You can create a contact, you can read a contact, you can update a contact, and you can also delete a contact. So that's what I say when I'm talking about the CRUD operations, the CRUD. So I'm going to move on to an example. I'm going to show you all a little brief example of working with entities. So this is a snippet. It's a snippet of a class. It's a normal class. So this is what you use whenever you're going to be coding a code first approach. So you just make this, which is a class that we have been making since we started MVC. Since I started this video, we've been making classes that look like this, and we're going to continue to make classes that look like this, because this is how you code. This is how you do the MVC model. So this code creates a model with a single entity called user. The user entity has properties for the user ID, user password, and user email. So once you have created your entity framework model, you can use it to interact with your database. For example, you can use the DB context class to create read updates into the data from your database, which is actually something nice to do. I won't lie to you. So we're gonna move on now to tutorial time. We're gonna go talk about the tutorial. I have given you a brief overview of what exactly MVC Entity Framework is. I hope it's enough for you to understand like the basics of it. But in essence, Entity Framework doesn't really offer much other than the things I've outlined below. I'm just gonna briefly go through the slides again so you can see them, see exactly what I'm talking about. So whenever you're creating an Entity Framework model, is a representation of your database schema in code. The model is used to create entities, which are objects that represent the data in your database. So whenever you're in Visual Studio and you're coding applications, you're gonna encounter something like this. So don't be scared when you see it, because this is just like tables. You are building tables, you are building ERDs, entity relationship diagrams. It's still the same thing. It's just that now you're doing it in code. Now you're doing it in a more practical manner, rather than just you drawing up diagrams that lead to nowhere. So yeah, that's basically it for now. We're gonna go talk about the solid principles. Before we get to the tutorial, we're gonna talk about the solid principles and entity framework, how these two correlate and how they play a part. So solid principles in software design are basically those principles that developers adhere to whenever they're coding applications. Because sometimes you might be making these things and in a sense people won't be actually seeing or appreciating like the full craft of your applications, because they're not aware of the principles you were doing. They're not aware of the principles you are abiding to as you were coding. So we're gonna go in more depth to those principles, and we're gonna talk about how they apply to entity framework. Alright then, the 5 solid principles. Oh yeah. Fuck it. So let's talk about the 5 solid principles. The first one we have is single responsibility principle, SRP. So it's usually like one reason to change per class, separating data access and business logic. So it basically deals with separating the two. So its official definition, or its official wording, says that a class should only have one reason to change. And in the context of entity framework, this means that each class should have a clear and distinct responsibility. For example, you might have separate classes for defining your data models, entities, handling database access, repositories, and managing business logic. This separation ensures that changes in one aspect of the application won't affect unrelated parts. So you can have your thingies, or you can have your changes in your models, you can have your changes in your repositories, but if you adhere to this principle, it makes sure that your applications they don't go crashing down, they don't have issues, they don't have things like that, customer relationship issues, or customers cannot access the application due to the server being overloaded, kind of like what happened with the Izaka thing. The NSWA students know, kind of like happened. That thing, everything in that system was just crap for one moment. Why? Because everything was full. The code is not segregated properly. The code is not working as efficiently as it should. And this is why knowing such principles is very important, because it helps you in the future to avoid building applications that are not going to be so scalable and are not going to be good in terms of society, applications that society is actually going to accept with open arms, unlike what happened with the Izaka situation. So the second thing we're moving on to is open close principle, OCP. The OCP states that software entities, classes, modules, functions, etc. should be open for extension but closed for modification. What does this mean? Okay, when working with Entity Framework, you can adhere to this principle by using inheritance and interfaces to extend functionalities without altering existing code. For example, you could create a custom repository of classes that implement a common interface, allowing you to add new methods or behavior without changing the existing code base. So this basically in a sense means what? Any class you create, you should be able to extend it, but you cannot modify its purpose. If it's created to calculate or to update the database, it should always update the database, but it can always grow into what updates is it adding to the database. That's what they're talking about, the open for extension part. But for modification, you cannot change its functionality. That's what they say. So using inheritance and interfaces in Entity Framework will help you to do this, and this is why later on in the video I'm going to teach you all how to make applications that are object-oriented programming powered using Entity Framework, because I want you to grasp an understanding of OOP in a sense that if you follow the OOP principles, in turn you follow the solid principles as well, because OOP renders your applications to be scalable and maintainable, which is the fundamental principles or the fundamental aspects you're looking into whenever you're talking with the solid principles. Alright, then let's move on to Liskov substitution principle, LSP. So the LSP emphasizes that objects of a derived class should be able to replace instances of a base class without affecting the correctness of the program. In this context of Entity Framework, this means that any derived classes, subclasses you create to extend framework functionality should still work seamlessly with existing code that uses the base classes. For example, if you extend an Entity Framework DB context, ensure that the derived DB context maintains the expected behavior of the base DB context. You're gonna see this in more detail as I start making the DB context classes for you all here. I'm gonna move on now to number 4, which is interface segregation principle. So the ISP suggests that clients or classes that use interfaces should not be forced to depend on interfaces they do not use. In the context of Entity Framework, you can apply this principle by designing specific interfaces that cater to the needs of different parts of your application. For instance, you might define separate interfaces for read and write operations on your repository. This way, client classes can implement only the interfaces relevant to their requirements, reducing unnecessary dependencies and basically making your code overall better to use, or your user interface overall better to use, or more user friendly. You'll make your interface more user friendly for your clients basically. And then you have your last one but not least, dependency inversion principle, DIP or DIP. So this states that high-level modules should not depend on low-level modules. Both should depend on abstractions. Additionally, abstractions should not depend on details. Details should depend on abstractions. So what does this all fancy terms mean? So in Entity Framework, you can follow this principle by using dependency injection, which is DI, to decouple your application components. For instance, you could inject the DP content instances to repositories or services, allowing you to switch between different data sources without changing the dependency classes. Remember though, adhering to these solid principles can lead to more maintainable and adaptable Entity Framework based applications. So the dependency inversion, let's talk about that a little bit more. When they say high level modules, they referring to your abstractions, basically abstraction is a high level module and the details is a low level module. So abstraction should not depend on details. The details of the application should not define the abstraction of an application, but the abstraction of an application should define the detail of an application. I'm not sure if it makes sense to you guys, but for me it surprisingly does. And I have this little what do you call this little diagram right in front of you. So this is a database and it has Entity Framework conceptual model, track changes, query, and then updates to database. So this is more what the Entity Framework does. And Then you have your application logic here, your business objectives, they all interact with this thingy. And then your user interface. User interface interacts with the app logic to business objects and app logic to the entity framework parts, and then yeah, everything back to the database and then back to the client. So these are the 5 principles. I'm pretty sure nobody has taught you these principles if you went to an accredited school. Some of you might know these principles, but these are very, very important principles for anybody to include in coding, or to make sure that your applications are well powered and they are well scalable, and you can be able to basically build an application that is customizable by any developer, even if you're not at your company that you build the application on. So we're going to build a student database, a student management database, and we're going to see where it goes from there. I'm going to explain these concepts when I'm done building that application to you all, and then you're going to see exactly where does each of these 5 aspects fit in. All right, so the links to this thing will be down in the below, like the link to the PowerPoint I'm using, and then we're going to go to the video and we can try this thing. Of course, they'll try to share the code. All right, then it's tutorial time, and we're about to read this scenario based question, and we're going to go to Visual Studio and we're going to start making the application. All right, then what does it say? You're a business analyst student who teaches coding languages on YouTube. Your upcoming tutorial is aimed at helping beginners understand how to create a student database system using Entity Framework and master CRUD operations while doing it. So this is a very simple one we're going to make. We're just going to make a student management system. And this student management system is going to have all 4 operations. The CRUD operations: create, read, update, delete. Meaning that you're going to be able to create a new student in your system, and you're going to be able to read the student you have created, and then you're going to be able to update the students you already have and then delete the students you have. So task 1 is going to be us defining the student model, and then you have to create the database context, and then you have to do the CRUD operations, which is just performing Entity Framework. And then I'm going to explain to you how in real life this type of application works out. Alright then, so you're in your desktop right now. What I want you to do is just come here to your Visual Studio if you're using Visual Studio. If you're not, go to whatever IDE you're using and open it. Just gonna click it to open. It's gonna start running, and then we're gonna see the application unfold at its finest. Okay, we're gonna create a new application. This shows you the applications you already made. Here you create a new application or a new project. I'm gonna click on new project. So I'm teaching you right now how to harness the MVC Entity Framework way. So that's steps I'm giving you right now. Please note them down, and note that if you're going to be building these applications, you must follow these steps to the best of your ability. Basically follow them as they are, copy and paste. Alright, so as we're gonna be waiting for this thing to charge up, we're gonna pick ASP.NET Web Application.NET Framework. You pick it here. Make sure it has C#, it has Windows, it has Cloud, and it's Web. Okay, all 3 of these things must be here for you to get the benefits you're looking for. I'm gonna say next, and then you're gonna check your version here. Make sure it's the latest one you're using. I'm gonna name our little projects here: database, students. Alright, so I'm just gonna change it and store it on the desktop, and then I'm gonna say create. Alright then, so it's gonna create this thing for me. So right now it has MVC. You click on MVC and then you click create, and then it's gonna start creating a project, and then it's gonna take you to the project page. Alright then, so before it does that, there's something I want to point out related to the project. So what we're going to be doing is creating a model. A model is just a normal MVC model. You create that, and And then we're going to create another model, which is a very special type of model called the context class model. So what does it do? This model kind of acts as your database, in a sense that it keeps all the information stored in one place, and you can link your different tables onto each other there. So as I say, it is like your database, and a database consists of tables, right? Tables in C# are known as what? They are known as classes or models. So it's gonna have one class. That class is gonna have all the necessary models that have to be in that database. Right now though, I'm only gonna make one. I'm just gonna be dealing with one model, and then after this activity we're gonna go do another activity where we're going to be dealing with 2 models, 3 models. Yeah, probably won't get to 4 models, but yeah, you can even stretch it out to 4 models. Okay, so this application is about to kick in and we're about to start. So the first thing you should probably check here is wait for everything to load up and make sure that the PC is running up, the package manager is nice and running, you see all your ASP things. So it's gonna go to models folder, the models folder, you right click. Alright, so as you right click, it obviously will be a bit slow on your part. Alright, as I said, you're gonna come here, right click, create your class, and then after creating your class, what are you gonna do? You're just simply gonna name your class. I'm gonna name mine students, since we're talking about students. Excuse me, I'm gonna name it students, and then we have students here. It's gonna be made, just wait for it a little bit. 10 seconds later, some fucking odd reason. Alright then, so what else do you have here? You're gonna click enter, so you're gonna be inside your little model, and then you have to create your properties. So I like to do it like this. It's a nice and easy way of doing it. Just say prop and then you double tap the tap button. So I'll probably have a link down in like the video here, you should see it. Alright, so we have to name this guy here. I'm gonna make it my age. He already has an answer. Oh god. Okay, 3 of them. I'll change this to a string. Make it name. Student ID. This should be end. Yeah, and yeah, you can just leave your model here. Nothing would be wrong if you just left your model in the state it's in right now. You just have your name, your student ID. You also have your, what is this thing again? Oh, the age. So you have these 3 properties. What I want to do right now is I want to add a few data validations. Alright then, so let's add these data validations. How are we gonna do them? So just gonna be adding these things. Gonna say required, not return. No, we're gonna say required. So if you are doing application development 2A, you were taught this thing last semester. Error message. It's actually an easier way to do it. I'm just not gonna do it yet. Equals to, I'm gonna say here, name is required. So then if the name is required, what else might be required from us? The age one would be a good one to know that it's always required. Well, when I have required, Alright then, from this point on you can add your data validations or all of that stuff, but for now I will not, because I want you guys just to see like how does this go to a DB context, and then how does it go from there to the controller and scaffolded view. So right now I'm just gonna right click again on my models. I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna add another class, and I'm going to call this class student context. Why am I calling a student context? I'm calling a student context because I'm expecting this class to keep all my information or find a way for me to access my information in a manner that's going to be both convenient for me and convenient for the application. So it's gonna be loading up these templates, and then we're gonna pick whatever template we're comfortable with. I wanna pick a class, so I'll pick class, and then I'll come down here to change. I'm going to put in student context. So I'm gonna put in student context. Oh, excuse me. So I'm gonna put in student context, and then I'm gonna click add. It's gonna scaffold the student context class. And then after doing that, it's gonna initialize the templates, make sure everything is good. Alright, so you kind of have everything here. So first thing I'd like to add is the DB context. Before I add anything else, DB context. Alright, so you add this for one primary reason. The usual reason for adding something like this would be for you to be able to link your database to the DB context, so you can be able to use the database integrated services in your entity framework. Alright then, so simply gonna add, where is this thing? Welcome to chat. No. Alright then, so okay, I'm not really seeing what I'm supposed to be saying here, because I should be adding, or there it is. So I should be installing the entity framework package. This one. So you have to install the latest entity framework. You can do what I just did right there, which is nice and easy. Or you could just go to the tool manager. Okay, I'm gonna show you later. But yeah, I just have to install the latest entity framework package, and then from there it's usually just easy peasy, because as you see, I'm installing this package because it's gonna help me be able to make my controller and my view in a much more scaffolded manner. So I'm going to be able to scaffold my view and my controller easily because I have installed this package. So right now it's going to be installing. It usually takes quite a lot of time, and you have to make sure you're connected to the internet as well to do this, which is another downside or bummer. I don't know why my laptop's on airplane mode. Just turn should connect automatically. Alright then, so as we wait for this thing to be doing its little damn things, something I'm gonna point out. So in the beginning of everything, they said they wanted us to define the student model, which we did in our previous page, and then they also want us to create that database context. So this is what we're doing right now. We're creating that database context, which is called student context. Alright then, so you see this extra line that has just been added. This is the using system.data.entity. So this is how you use the DB context. You must install this framework. If you cannot do it the way I just did, there is another way of doing it, but that way it does take a bit of time, and it does basically, it's too much work for no fucking reason. So just come in projects, you go to your manage Nugget packages, it takes you to this page, you go to browse, and let me see, it is installed. Oh yes, finally. So you're gonna be looking for something like this, Entity Framework 6. Alright, Entity Framework EF6 is Trident based tested object relational mapper for .NET with many years of development and stabilization. So remember when I told you all that in Entity Framework we're dealing with object relational mapping. So yes, we are dealing with that in context, but at the same time some things are gonna be done for us if we install the right packages. So in this essence, or in this sense of programming, it's all about you finding out which package is the best one that's going to suit my needs, which package can help me, because you see I have installed many packages here. Some I don't use, some I do use, okay? But the ideal part is that whenever I'm making a new application or I'm making something else, I always install something new if I want to use something new. Like here, I installed Bootstrap because I wanted to use JavaScript to the code on a project of mine, right? So you see, Bootstrap is a framework on its own, so I imported this framework into my Entity Framework powered application. You see, and this is Entity Framework. This is the one that has been recently installed, which is why you see the X sign here. So this is the install part, and you can still browse here and go look for more, because there's always more and more features to help you. All you have to do is exactly know these features and know where to go and get them. So I'll cover a future video later on. The future video is going to be encompassing all these different plugins you can put in for your Entity Framework powered application. Alright, so you come here, you click this, you install it. For me it's gonna say uninstall because I already installed it. So that's about it. You can also get your updates on your packages here if you have any. I don't have any Entity Framework packages that have updates, so just gonna leave it like that. Alright then, so we're gonna go on and start building this student context. So the student context doesn't really require much. It doesn't have that many subsidiaries, just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So we're gonna have public, we're gonna have DB sets, excuse me. So we're gonna have public DB sets, student, just name of the class, and then I'm just gonna say students. Alright, okay, we had a bit of an error. Okay, now go back on track. I'm gonna say get dot set, and that's about it. So right now you have successfully added your student class to this database context. How is it added? Through just this one line of code. Public database set students for student class, and then students. So this is it's sort of like an object I've created to represent whatever is inside this. So this student has the value of this class student. So it has name, it has student ID, it has age. Alright, so that's about everything. So one more thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go click on build. We're gonna rebuild our solution before we can actually apply Entity Framework to it. So we rebuild our solution. We must check if we don't have any system failures. We must check if we don't have any out of date stuff that needs to be updated and stuff like that. And we need to also know that the system build is successful. And if the system build is successful, then we will be able to apply Entity Framework. Alright, and the system build is a success. Right now we're gonna apply Entity Framework. So this is how you go about it. I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit. So you come here to the controller, you right click, you add controller. Alright, everything's going as usual, but this time you don't go here or here, you go here. MVC5 with views using Entity Framework. Okay, so this is just a framework. Okay, it's a framework, it's a guideline of rules you follow to develop a C# powered application. Alright, so you're gonna click add, and then you're gonna pick your model class. My model class is students. You're gonna pick your database context class, which is student context, and then you're gonna click create. So right now it's gonna scaffold, it's gonna install all the other necessary naked packages, and it might take a few moments, but what it's gonna give us is gonna give us this fantastic CRUD operation: the create, the read, delete, the edit, the updates, everything. So it's gonna give us that all in the controllers, and it's also gonna scaffold our view. Alright, so it's giving us an error. What does it say? There was an error running that said the code generator unable to retrieve metadata for database students.models.students. One or more validation errors were detected during model generation. Database students, model students, entity type students has no key defined. Define the key for this entity type. Student entity type set student is based on type students that has no key defined. So what does it say to us? It says to us that we did not define a key. What is a key? A key is a primary key. Do we have a primary key? We do not. Alright then, so I'm just gonna take this, put it up here, and then I'm gonna say key. So what I did, I deliberately did not include the key because of two reasons. I wanted you all to see how important it is for you to put the key, and I also wanted you to see that without the key this thing is not gonna work. So you input your key, you run again, you rebuild your solution, and then you wait for it to say to you that okay, the solution is a success, and if it's a success you re-engage with the Entity Framework steps. So you just saw me right now. I did this thing and it gave me an error, and I fixed the error. Okay, it was a bit of a proposed error, so that you guys can be able to see exactly what is happening, exactly what is required. So for you to be able to apply Entity Framework to its fullest, you must make sure that the tables you're creating are exactly the tables you find in an SQL database, meaning that they have their databases, they have their primary keys, they have their foreign keys if necessary, and yeah, basically they fulfill all the necessary steps a table is supposed to do. Yeah, voila. So this thing has just created a student controller for us, which is looking lovely. So you have your index, you have your details page, you have your create page, you have your create page again. This time it has if model state is valid, if everything inside the code is valid, and you have your action result edits. Same story, you have your edit here if model state is valid, have your details, you have your deletes again here. So yeah, kind of gives you everything. Let's go to the view and check out the views, what they look like. So you see, if you can follow my instructions, you can be able to make an application like this yourself, which is actually pretty fun to do. Alright then, so what else do you have? You have like your create view. So yeah, they can come here, they can create shit. Yeah. Also have your delete view, so people can come here and delete stuff. Cool. And you have your details, so people can come here and like view shit and read it. And you have your edit page. Your edit page, people can like come here and edit information. And then you have your index, and yeah, the index, people can come and create new information. So I'm gonna go to app start, open up root config. I'm gonna change the controller to students. Alright, and then I'm gonna like run. So I'm gonna run this application in front of you all, and you're all gonna be able to see exactly how does this thing look when it's running. And yeah, basically like the whole gist of it, as I did show you this application before I built it. I showed you the completed version because I wanted to give you all a sneak peek, and now this is the full application. I've just built it in front of you. As you can see, it takes less than 10 minutes to build this thing. So yeah, like what's giving you the right not to even do this thing? Like get your computer out, start making your models, start making your DB context, scaffold your classes. I'm pleading with you, get your laptop out, start doing these things, because this is the easiest entity framework application I'm gonna make ever. The next one I'm gonna be moving on to is gonna have 2 models, and the one with 2 models is a very, very complex one. It's complex, but not too complex, but in a sense it does show you more about entity framework. It does show you exactly how many features entity framework can provide you with, okay? Because the next one I'm gonna make, we're just going to be we're just going to be making the course model. Gonna be making the course model, and we're gonna be adding it to the student model. Because right now we're making a student database system, right? And in a student database system, you should have a list of courses the student is doing, right? And if I have a list of courses, I could have a course name that would be linked to the model class of the student. Could have course fees, could have course whatever. So I'm just saying all these things to you so that you know that whatever application you're making, it doesn't just end there. This is just the basic structure of it. This is more like the skeleton of it. So I'm gonna keep building around it. I'm not gonna delete it. I'm gonna build a new application so you all can see, because I'm sure most of you are very new to Entity Framework, hence why you're watching this video. And I want to make sure that I give you guys the entire basics. I don't like skip over stones, and I don't be giving you an application that is already hard to use. Alright then, so we can create our new student here. Yeah, I mean, it's not really the best of things you can do, but hey, we're gonna create a new student. So this thing is actually slow for now, but it's fine. We're gonna be able to do what we need. So this is the name of my new student. So today's it's already written down here. I'm like 20 years old, and create. I have my first set of student here. Maybe I can say Ryan Giggs. I like Ryan. Ryan's a good fella. Like dirty. Create again. And I can say so cool. it's like 5 years old. You can create again, so you can go edit this information if you want it. Say my age changed to 21, now it's like 21. I can read the details here. Ryan Giggs, go back to my list, delete Ryan Giggs, go back to the list, is no longer there. So this application just perfectly represents the CRUD operations I was talking about. You can create a new student, meaning you can create, yes, and you can update an existing student, meaning you can edit and you can read the details of a student's, hence for details, and you can delete a student, hence for delete. So this application shows you the full embodiment of CRUD operations. I'm gonna just show you something. I don't know why it's not opening up. But yeah, I was gonna show you something about CRUD operations. I'll show it a bit later on in the video. But this is it. So this is CRUD operations in an entity framework powered application, and we have a running view and now a running controller. So right now all is left is for you to build it, and me, I'm gonna move on now to the next application, which is going to involve causes. So I'm first gonna read out the statement to you all, and then after that we'll Alright then, welcome back to this planet. Look, okay, right now we're about to create this brand new program, this brand new project for what is it again? It's for migrations, right? So yeah, we had migrations, so we're doing this brand new project for migrations. Look, what I want you to do as soon as you come here, so you say create a new project, and then you must go to ASP.NET Core Web App Model View Controller. I usually go to it, that's why it's here, but now I'm changing this thing here so you all see what to change whenever you want to see this thing. We just put this thing to C#, and then this thing is gonna show you a bunch of options here. Once you have all your options, it's very easy. You click the ASP.NET Core one, and then now we're just gonna change your model name. Let's go back. You pick this one, okay? This one here, cool. And then as it goes on, you're gonna be. And then you're gonna come here. When you come here, you just change the name. We're calling it Block App, so you can call it Block App yourself. Cool. And then now it's gonna start doing this. But it's gonna start doing it's gonna start basically giving you a framework to pick off. You put .NET 7 as your standard time support on framework, and on authentication type we're gonna put none. Okay, cool. And then you're gonna say create. It's gonna now start creating your projects, and then you're gonna be sent to Visual Studio at the start of the project. Okay, I'll see you all in Visual Studio. Alright, okay. Okay, let's get this restarted. So we are supposed to install 3 packages, right? So the first package is going to be Microsoft Entity Framework Core. But as I was doing these things, I made a fatal mistake I want you guys to be aware of in the future. So this little fatal mistake wasn't something I intended on making, but it's something that did happen over the course as I was doing this. So first thing, you should go to Tools, and then, okay, I'm gonna show you the mistake I made a bit further on here in this tutorial, so just stick around. So go to Tools, you're gonna go to your Naked Package Manager, and then you're gonna go to Manage Naked Package Console, and bring it back to you guys. So you see again, Tools, you go to your Naked Package Manager, see where you're going. You're coming here to your Manage Naked Packages for Solution. You take this little guy here. Look at my cursor. Where am I clicking? Right there. Okay, and then this is gonna take you where? It's gonna take you to another page. This is gonna be the page. So in this page you have your Naked Package Solution. So you're gonna have your browser installed, your updates or consolidate. So you're gonna have this browser, since you already don't have this installed in your PCs or your Visual Studio. It doesn't come installed with Visual Studio, so you have to install it yourself as you're using it. What do we have now? I'm gonna go back to blog just to copy this. So you can do the same as well. When you come to blog, just write all this thing out as you see it here, and then it's gonna be easier for you when you go and look for your nugget packages, put them out as comments in your class or whatever. But any place it can be easy for you to just copy and paste it. Alright then, so I'm gonna paste it right there, and then it's gonna give me the package manager I'm looking for. So you see these are all the names this thing triggered, but we're not looking for every single one of these. We're just looking for the Entity Framework core one, right? So we come to Entity Framework core, and now we tick there where we want it installed, and then we're gonna click install. Okay, first thing, notice the version here. It's version 8.0. Remember when we started building the application, we were using version 7.0. This is gonna give us issues. So I'm telling you this beforehand because I made this mistake, and I want you to see what happens when you make a mistake like this, so that whenever you're coding on your own, you see what mistakes you're doing, and as you see your own mistakes, you're gonna be able to fix your own mistakes, okay? Because that's what the most important essence of being a programmer is, the fact that you can fix your own mistakes. So I'm gonna come into config just to show you where everything should be. So this is where everything should be. You should have your package source mapping, that's the blue selected thing here. Yeah, you should have that very early on, and then everything should be smooth sailing from there. So we go, and we're gonna now click install. I'm gonna say accept. We're gonna do all these install procedures. So we do install. Okay, so right now this thing is not installed, okay, because it doesn't have say uninstall here. The issue is what we used a version that is higher than the one we're building the framework on. We are using version 7.8, which is why the 8.0 is not going to work. Okay, it's coming. We're using version 7. I'm sorry. Just gonna move forward here. I'm just gonna show you when it actually works. Okay, so you saw how it doesn't work. So this time around we're installing what Microsoft Entity Framework core.sql server. So this is how you're gonna be installing this one. You just search for it there, same story as the other one. You can be installed. So now look, I changed the version. It's now 7.0.12. Now it's giving me writings here. Why is it giving me writings here? Because it knows that right now this is a framework that is within its level. So you can install a native package framework that is like below the framework you're using. You can't install something though that is above the framework you're using. Yeah, well, okay, something like that. Okay, I don't know why they designed it like this, but it's the same thing like this. So it's always important to keep note of what framework you're using, or yeah, basically what framework version you're using. All right, so we have a few authors there. Let's say accepts and move on, and then from there, what's gonna happen? It's gonna change the uninstall is gonna change to installed. So that's why this thing is a very crucial aspect in this thing. Excuse me. So right now I'm just trying it out again, just to see, just to show you guys it's not gonna work again. You're gonna see what's gonna happen there. The version installed is going to be 7.012. I'm telling you, it's gonna be 7.012. And so when then it's gonna load up, see installed, it's 7.012, and then it has uninstalled is now changed. I'm gonna go back for you. See, uninstalled here was like this. It was like this. And then after we installed it changed, right? That's how you know, that's your cue. This thing has been installed, and now you can successfully move forward. So you must make sure that you install all three of these things. What three things am I exactly talking about? Entity Framework core. You see right now I'm installing core and Entity Framework design. So you must install these guys. The first one, Entity Framework core, install Entity Framework design, and then install Microsoft Entity Framework SQL Server. You don't necessarily have to follow this order, but it is important you install all three. Okay, it's very nice for me to work with you guys, so I hope you can